Hey everybody, welcome to episode 30 of the 50/50 Showcase. This is my fifth and final Dominator, number 30 of 50 heroes, villains, vigilantes, and rogue characters on the City of Heroes Excelsior Shard. Pasiphae, she is electric control. I had an electric control in my controller set earlier, so this should not be a new power set for you. Martial Assault. This is brand new. I don't think you've seen any martial stuff from any of my characters. I'm trying to think of one of my blasters. Warlock. He might have been Martial, the Warlock, or sorry, the blaster version of Martial. I'm pretty sure he is now that I think about it. But anyway, the Dominator version is different. And then Mew. I have played at least one Mew I can think of off the top of my head. But in this particular character, you'll see why the Mew electric powers are going to team beautifully with the electric control stuff because one of the goals for this character is to be an end drainer. So we're going to be draining enemies dry of their endurance within just a few seconds of contact. It's going to require me to get into melee range, but I have a plan for that as well. And as a Dominator, she's going to, of course, do a lot of controlling. So let's take a look at the build over here on mids so you can see what the plan is, what the strategy is going to be. All right, here is Pasiphae's build. Electric control. I have just about everything. I did not take the single target immobilize, and I've spoken on that a few times already, so I'm not going to rehash why I don't do it. And then synaptic overload. This is a confuse power, and I'm not a big, huge fan of confuse. Not necessarily because of it's gonna steal my XP like some people complain. It's just that this is a slow jumping chain confuse, and I don't know. It's just not fast enough. I mean, mind control is a great confuse and AOE confuse. Plant control is a great AOE confuse, and mind is a great single target confuse. But the other single target confuse powers in the control sets, and they're just not very good, at least in my opinion. But whatever, what do I know, right? Then I've got Martial Assault. I have just about everything except for Masterful Throw, the so-called snipe of the Martial Assault set. And then rounding out the collection here, I've got the Mew Mastery, where I've got Power Sync, the Armor, Ball Lightning, which is an AoE attack, and then a Guardian that I could summon to have some more pets, because who can't use more pets, right? All right, so let's take a look at this build. Let me deactivate my incarnate stuff so I'm not confusing anything here. Make sure everything else is off that should be off. Let me turn hasten on just so I can see what that looks like. Because as I'm sure you can guess, even if you just look at the sets or watch my other videos on Dominators, this is a permadom build. I have 157.5% recharge with hasten clicked. So that is enough yet again to give me permadomination. And this build is on the sort of expensive side, not as bad as Miranda was, my Gravity Earth Dominator, but a little bit pricey because I've got ATO sets, Ascendancy of the Dominator, and the Superior Dominating Grasp over here. So I've got 9 ATOs. Those are going to cost you anywhere between 7 to 10 million if you were to buy them straight off the market. So you do the math on that. Let's say 8 million, times 9, that's 72 million or so right there. Then I've got a purple set, the gravitational anchor here. I got 5 of those. If you're going to try to buy these, they're probably, I don't know, 15, 20 a pop or something like that. So I don't know, 100 million. So really between those three sets there, you're close to 200 million. 150, 200 million, depending on if you're buying stuff, if you're flipping things, if you're crafting things, whatever. But I'm just talking raw, you go out and buy it. Then I've got some other sets that have a lot of recharge, which are pretty popular. So those are going to be a little bit more pricey. Like I've got the Luck of the Gambler. I've got a couple of those. Those are going to cost you like 7, 8 million or something like that. So really, just between my three sets that you talked about and those two Lucks of the Gambler, you're definitely looking at 200 million right there. You throw in the rest of the stuff, that's probably another 100, 200 million just for all these other sets. So yeah, this is, 300, 400 million. I don't think it's the half billion like Miranda's or so that was, but it's up there, right? So this is not cheap. Now, as you've seen though in my other videos, you don't need to go this expensive. You could substitute in, here's a hold power. So you could throw another basilisks in here and get the 7.5% rather than the superior, recharge on the ascendancy of the Dominator, which gives me 10%. So, that'd only knock you down 2.5, but it would save you a bunch of money. So that's one way you can cheapen these builds. Same thing with chain fences. I don't need the purple gravitational anchor in here. I could go with a rarer set, something like, let's say, Positron's Blast in there and get 6.25. It would lower my overall recharge a little bit, but not enough to knock me out of permadomination. Anyway, so there you go. Permadom. Now, as far as the actual strategy beyond that, the main reason I paired these two power sets together is for 2 powers and 2 powers only. Trick Shot and Jolt and Chain. It's because both of these are chain jumping powers, okay? If you've not seen them or used them, these are powers that target a single target. And when you hit it, the attack, the damage, or whatever it is, the effect will jump to a neighboring or nearby target randomly. And I think it jumps like 3 times or something like that. So the cool thing is that the jumps, in my experience, and you'll see this for yourself if it still works the way I remember it, is that the jumps can carry the proc along with them. So I know some people have said no, that doesn't happen, but I can almost 100% guarantee you it will. But we'll test it. Maybe things have changed, or I was just, feeble-minded at the time. But if you take a look, I've got devastation in both of these powers, so the damage, but I've got the chance to hold. So the idea is I throw a Trick Shot, I throw Jolting Chain, and the chance to hold procs will fire multiple times across the targets that I hit. Combine that with Chain Fences, Gravitational Anchor. I've got the chance for holding that one as well. So I got these 3 powers, kind of spamming and hitting a clustered group with them is going to proc a whole bunch of holds to the whole group of them. Plus the damage is jumping across, and then the gravitational anchor is just going to immobilize the crap out of stuff. So that's sort of the main, concept. I've got Tesla Cage is also going to be, of course, holding. And I've got the AoE hold, Paralyzing Blast over here. So Tesla Cage, Paralyzing Blast, and then the 3 powers here that are proccing holds. I'm going to be holding the crap out of a bunch of targets that I am, throwing stuff at. So that's one of the main things they're doing. The chaining jumps plus all the hold procs. So lots of control with that concept. Then I mentioned this, I think, a little bit earlier. I have a lot of endurance draining potential. I've got Conductive Aura, which is your AoE aura around you. It has a great, awesome minus endurance to your enemies. Combine that with Static Field, which is your sleep patch that you drop right below your enemies that you're standing among. This also has some minus endurance in it. Then I've also taken the Mew power set, like I mentioned, and I took Power Sync, which is a nice minus endurance click. The recharge on this should be pretty high if I'm not mistaken. My recharge is about 41 seconds. So every 41 seconds I can drain, 41 of the enemy's endurance. So, 40% or so. I'm going to have some minus, it says it has some minus recovery in it too, which I don't remember which of my powers do have minus recovery, which ones don't, but let's assume that that's correct. So anyway, you've got the Conductive Aura, you've got the Static Field, you've got the Power Sync, just draining the heck out of stuff. And then you can throw Ball Lightning in there, which also has minus endurance. Your Tesla Cage has minus endurance. The Chain Fences has minus endurance. This Jolting Chain, yeah, Jolting Chain has minus endurance. So you get the idea here. You're going to have lots of minus endurance. So all it's going to take is a few seconds, let's say 5 seconds or so, and most of the enemies standing around you or next to you are going to be, ooh, I know I was saying minus recovery. That's because I believe Conductive Aura has the minus recovery. Anyway, I digress. So anyway, So you got the minus endurance, you've got the procking holds all over the place. That's going to keep things drained. It's going to keep things held, immobilized, and then you're just going to go in there and start pummeling them with your martial attacks. Oh, and don't forget caltrops. You're going to throw caltrops down. Combined with static field, those two things have great minus speed potential, right? So enemies can't even get away with you. That's even if they somehow manage to escape the immobilize, they're gonna be super slow. They can't run. They're taking damage proc and minus resistance procs from caltrops. Static field. I threw the Dominator's grasp a set in there, and it does have the fiery orb proc, which I like. So when you throw your static field out, especially if you just drop it underneath yourself and your enemies, the little fiery ball comes out, just starts damaging the guys that you're standing next to. It's a great, combo of just damage and control all over the place. This character is very potent in that regard. And then on top of that, I've got decent survivability. I've got, smash, lethal, and energy, probably the three top damages from enemy groups in the game. I'm, looking at 2/3 to 50% resistance to all of that. My defense is, okay, right? I got some team defenses in here to a lot of different attacks, so I'm going to be able to survive that initial alpha in most cases. And by the time they get to, throw a beta shot at me, I've drained them, I've held them, I've immobilized them, I've slowed them. They're taking damage. They want to get away, but they can't. And then I just start beating the bejeekers out of them. Right? They're going to be going down real fast. So that's the overall style, the overall idea, and I've got some pets on top of that. I've got the Guardian, Summon Guardian pet, which is throwing out some electrical blast stuff. I got the two Gremlin pets that are gonna run out and throw some damage, and they've got Jolting Chain as well. The Jolting Chain's gonna knock stuff down. Your what is that? I think the legs with sweeping kick has a knockdown on top of that, so you can do a sweeping kick and knock stuff down. So you got those light controls out there as well. Lots of things that you're able to do to just bring pain and discomfort to your enemies. I think I've hit all the major stuff in the main power sets here. There's a chance to stun and thunder kick. Explosive shuriken that has the splash explosion fire damage. So that's pretty cool. And then you look at my incarnate stuff. What do I have here to make things even more interesting? I took ageless, right? I don't necessarily need the plus endurance stuff because I'll be draining and getting recovery anyway. But this just, puts it over the top. Not gonna have any endurance issues if you look at my totals here. My endurance drain is 1 per second. My recovery is 13 when I have that clicked. When I don't have it clicked, it's 2.8 to 1. So that's really solid. It's almost 3 to 1 right there. I've got the Ion Judgment, which has more minus endurance, more recovery, and chance to hold. I want the radial side, so another electrical attack. I've grabbed Preemptive as my interface. That has a chance to proc the minus endurance. It has a chance to proc minus recovery, plus it does some more energy damage, a little lightning damage. So this is going to help draining and keeping targets drained once I've got hold of them. I've got the melee radial. You see me pick this on other builds, but this is for this Dominator who's going to be in melee range, similar to what you saw with Miranda and Janice when I was playing those Dominators. You can see this one here, same idea. I'm going to be in melee, so this is going to boost up my defense, boost up some regen, that kind of stuff. And then I took Vigor as my alpha. That gives me some accuracy because, hey, you need accuracy right to hit. And I have lots of things I want to hit with, especially the chaining, jumping attacks, the AoE spammable, what is it, those lightning cages, chain fences, there it is. So I need that to hit. I've got it for the endurance reduction because I am going to be spamming attacks. I do have some toggles running. So once I have that going, my endurance goes from 1 down to 0.8. I also get the regen boost, which is nice because I am going to be in melee. So that's going to help with my health by boosting your healing here on the health power. I think is it your Conductive Aura also takes. Let me check. Yes, so Conductive Aura also takes heal sets. So the cool thing here is this is going to give me plus regen. Conductive Aura when I have it on, so the Vigor is going to boost that. So I have, the decent damage resistance from my defense shields over here. I've got the melee radial here, which is giving me plus defense, plus regen. I'm standing on top of static field and conductive. I have conductive auras running, so things are being drained. I'm getting more endurance. I'm getting more regen. I've got Vigor running with more accuracy, endurance reduction, and the plus health. I've got the Sleep boost duration, which is going to help with my static field patch. So this is, if I remember correctly, I haven't played this one in a while, but this is a highly survivable, uh, really draining, paining Dominator build. It's similar to what you saw with my controller Callisto, who was built as this tank controller. So, Pasiphae, she can get into melee, lay down some drain, lay down some pain, have decent survivability. She does not like ranged attackers at all. For them, I will throw Jolting Chain and Trick Shot out. If I can get in close with a group that I've got immobilized, I've got slept, I've got caltropped under them, they're done. Okay, they're not going to make it for very long. So that's the name of her game, Drain and Pain. So let's go ahead and fire up some solo missions so you can see what some of the strategies are going to be, see if what I'm talking about actually works. And then we'll run some team stuff to make sure that this is effective, not just a solo one-on-one type of stuff, but also if you're in the chaos of a team. Because I think this build actually works pretty well with teams, just because you really don't care what your allies are doing. You're throwing out all these little, bouncy attacks and controls. You're dropping your static field. You're running into melee with conductive aura. You don't care what your enemy or allies are doing. You're not there to try to heal them like you're playing a controller version of this. All right, that's what I got to say about it. Let's check it out in real actual gameplay. Be right back.